Welcome, dear friend, to a quiet corner of our channel, and thank you for the warmth that we hope you can feel for choosing to spend your precious time here with us. We have prepared for you a gentle story, a quiet tale spun from stillness and light, crafted to be a soft and comforting companion as you make your way toward a peaceful night's slumber, helping you to drift off with ease. If, as you journey with us into the heart of the dell, you find a gentle joy in this quiet story, please do right now lend your support by liking this story, subscribing to our channel, and perhaps sharing a gentle comment, for it helps us continue to share these moments of tranquility. Before we learn of the Almanac, a chronicle written in morning dew, we shall first share a moment of gentle breathing to settle your spirit. Now, let us invite a deep and true comfort into our being. Allow yourself to settle, much like a fallen leaf finding its perfect resting place on a bed of soft moss. Feel your body sink gently into your mattress, or perhaps into the cushions of your chair, allowing every part of you to feel utterly supported and held. You might adjust your blankets, pulling them close as if they were a soft, warm burrow, and let your pillow cradle your head, making a cozy, safe nook just for you. This is your own special time, a gentle pilgrimage into quiet, where all the bustling thoughts of the day may simply unfurl and drift away, inviting a peaceful calm into your heart, as soft and pervasive as the scent of damp earth in a hidden dell. Let us share a soothing breath together, one that mirrors the slow, contented sigh of the ancient woods. Slowly, gently, draw the air in through your nose, imagining it flowing easily and naturally, a cool, clean stream of peace filling every small part of you. Then release it just as gently through your mouth, a soft, almost imperceptible whisper of pure relief. With each slow, easy breath, feel your body softening, much like soil after a gentle rain, releasing any small knots of tension you might be holding. Imagine the clean, sweet fragrance of night-blooming flowers, the faint, bready scent of warm herbs, and the grounding smell of stone that has been cool for a very long time, filling your senses and hushing the small, lingering noises of your day. If, perchance, your thoughts begin to flutter, like moths around a gentle light, that is quite all right, dear one. Simply notice them, allowing them to drift by like wisps of mist in a shallow valley, and then with the gentlest kindness, guide your attention back to the steady, quiet rhythm of your breathing, or to the calm of my voice. There is nothing at all left for you to do now, save for listening and allowing the story to carry you into the deep, restorative rest you so richly deserve. Feel the low, gentle hum of the luminous moss, a vibration that resonates with the very song of patience, softly coaxing your own body into a state of profound relaxation. Let any final worries simply soften and dissolve like dew in the morning sun. Now let us begin our quiet journey, where the silent stories of the Dewfall await to guide you into a serene and deeply restful sleep. Chapter 1. The Threshold of Stillness. It is a curious and wonderful thing, the way some paths seem to know precisely where one needs to go. The trail that led Fen to the dell was not a grand road, nor even a well-trod lane, but a simple suggestion in the landscape, A softening of the grass here, a gentle parting of the ferns there. He followed it not with purpose, but with a quiet sense of being led, much as a boat is guided by a current it cannot see. The air grew cooler, carrying on it a scent of profound peace, a mixture of damp, rich earth and something else, something clean and sweetly floral, as if the moon itself had a fragrance. He felt the world he was leaving behind fall away with each soft step, the distant clamor of busy lives, the weight of schedules, the endless lists of things to be done. All of it seemed to dissolve into the hazy air behind him. Here, the only sounds were the soft padded press of his boots on the mossy ground and the sighing of leaves overhead, a sound like a gentle, contented exhalation. It was a place that did not demand attention, but rather invited one to release it, to let go of the need to look and listen, and simply be. One could not quite say why, but it felt immeasurably safe. The path opened quite suddenly into a small, shallow basin, a perfect circle of tranquility cupped in the land's gentle hands. Around its edge stood a ring of ancient trees, their bark as smooth and pale as worn stone, their leaves a soft, muted sage that seemed to drink the light and hold it within. In the center of this quiet haven sat a small stone croft, looking less like it was built and more like it had grown there, a natural and welcome part of the scenery. Its stones were covered in a patchwork of soft mosses, and a thin, sleepy wisp of smoke curled from its chimney, a silent, comforting welcome. Fen pushed open the simple wooden door, which swung inward without a sound, as if it had been waiting. The single room inside was sparse but possessed a deep and abiding comfort. A stone hearth, large and dark, dominated one wall, and within it, a few embers glowed with a steady, reassuring warmth, their soft light dancing on the smooth stone floor. The air inside was cool but not cold, and it held the faintest scent of wood smoke and dried herbs, a fragrance of simple, wholesome living. It was a space that asked for nothing, a shelter in the truest sense of the word. He unslung the simple pack from his shoulders, its weight seeming to hold all the cares he had carried with him. As he set it on the floor, he felt a corresponding lightness in his own body, a feeling of having finally arrived at a place he had not known he was seeking. He walked over to the hearth, holding his hands out not for heat, but as a gesture of simple greeting. The embers pulsed with a soft orange light, and in their gentle glow, Fen felt a quietness settle over his spirit, a profound and welcome stillness he had not felt in a very long time. He noticed a simple cot in the corner, covered with a thick hand-woven blanket that looked wonderfully soft to the touch. Beside it, a small wooden stool stood next to a window ledge, where a single, smooth gray stone sat, as if placed there for contemplation. Every object in the room seemed to possess a quiet history, a purpose fulfilled with gentle dignity. There was no clutter, no sense of urgency, only a profound and stable sense of peace that seemed to emanate from the very stones of the walls. As evening deepened outside, the light within the dell turned to a soft, dusky lavender. Fen did not light a lamp, content to watch the changing colors through the small, clean pane of the window. The trees became dark, gentle silhouettes against a sky that was slowly beginning to fill with the first shy stars. The air grew cooler, and the scent of the night-blooming flowers, which he now knew were called selenine, became more pronounced, a sweet, clean perfume that felt like a lullaby for the senses. He pulled the soft blanket from the cot, wrapping it around his shoulders as he sat on the floor before the hearth. The wool was warm and smelled faintly of lavender and clean air. The gentle warmth from the embers and the comforting weight of the blanket created a cocoon of perfect contentment. He closed his eyes, not to sleep, but to better feel the deep and abiding peace of the place. The world outside the dell, with all its noise and hurry, felt like a half-remembered story from a long-ago time. Here, in the heart of the stillness, was all that mattered. Chapter 2. The First Droplet. Fan awoke not to a sound, but to a change in the quality of the light. A soft, pearlescent glow was filtering through the window, signaling a dawn that was gentle and unhurried. He felt a sense of rest so deep it seemed to have settled in his very bones, a quietude that was both physical and spiritual. Rising from the cot, he felt light and untroubled, as if he had shed some unseen burden in his sleep. He pushed open the door and stepped out into a world that had been transformed. The dell was awash in morning mist, a soft swirling vapor that made the ancient trees seem like gentle giants dreaming in the dawn. And everywhere, on every surface, was the dew. It was unlike any he had ever seen. It did not merely cling to the leaves and blades of grass. It rested upon them in perfect shimmering spheres, each one a tiny, self-contained world of captured light. They jeweled the petals of the selenine flowers, which were now closed in sleep, and traced the intricate patterns of spiderwebs with breathtaking precision. The sheer, quiet beauty of it made his heart feel wonderfully full. Drawn by a gentle curiosity that felt as natural as breathing, he knelt beside a large, broad fern, its fronds unfurled like a green invitation. On the very tip of one frond sat a single, perfect droplet of dew, larger than the rest, holding the dawn's soft light within it like a tiny liquid pearl. He felt a quiet prompting, a sense of gentle permission from the dell itself. He reached out a tentative finger, not to disturb the droplet, but simply to connect with it, to feel its coolness. The moment his skin touched the water, something extraordinary happened. It was not a grand vision or a loud revelation, but something far more subtle and profound. For the briefest of instants, he felt not the cold wetness of dew, but a deep, unfamiliar sensation of slow, spiraling movement, a feeling of green and vital energy unfurling from a tightly coiled center. It was the pure sensory memory of the fern frond itself uncurling into the world for the very first time. The feeling vanished as quickly as it came, leaving only a lingering sense of wonder and a single cool drop of water on his fingertip. He stood up slowly, his gaze sweeping across the dell with new understanding. He was surrounded by a silent, living library of gentle moments. He looked at a smooth gray stone and wondered if the dew upon it held the memory of the moon's cool light or the soft padding of a fox's paw in the night. It was a thought so full of innocent wonder that it made him smile, a slow, easy smile that felt entirely at home on his face. This place was not just peaceful, it was filled with the softest and most whimsical kind of magic. It was then that he saw her. Near a large, flat rock on the far side of the dell, a woman was kneeling. She had her back to him, her posture one of serene concentration. She was tending to a patch of something on the rock's surface, her movements slow and deliberate. As he watched, the thing she was tending to pulsed with a soft, internal light, a gentle wave of lavender that washed through it and then faded. Curious, but not wanting to intrude, Fen simply stood and observed, feeling that her presence was as natural and right for this place as the ancient trees and the magical dew. She must have sensed him, for she turned her head slowly, her expression entirely untroubled. She had a kind face, etched with the gentle lines of a life lived in contentment, and her eyes held the same quiet stillness as the dell itself. She offered him a small, welcoming smile, and then turned her attention back to her work. Fen felt no need to speak, no awkwardness in the shared silence. It was a comfortable quiet, a mutual acknowledgement of their shared appreciation for this special place. He later learned her name was Rain, and that she was the quiet caretaker of the luminous moss, a living, breathing tapestry of light that grew only in the dell. As the sun climbed higher, warming the air and beginning to dissolve the dew, she walked over to him, her footsteps making no sound on the soft ground. She held out a small, sun-warmed berry, its skin a dusty blue. "A gift from the dell," she said, her voice as soft as the rustling leaves. Fen accepted it with a grateful nod, and as he added, its sweet, earthy taste seemed to ground him even more deeply in the profound and gentle magic of his new home. Chapter 3. Reading the Morning. The days that followed settled into a rhythm as gentle and reliable as the rising and setting of the sun. Fen and Rain would meet in the soft light of dawn, not by arrangement, but by a shared, unspoken impulse to witness the dell's quietest miracle. They would not speak at first, allowing the profound silence of the morning to settle around them, a comfortable and cherished blanket. Rain would bring a small earthenware pot and 2 simple ceramic mugs, their surfaces smooth and cool to the touch. With slow, mindful movements, she would prepare a tea from crushed sun grains, a small golden herb that grew only in the sunniest patch of the dell. As she added warm water from a flask, a wonderfully comforting aroma would rise on the steam, a scent like warm, freshly baked bread with a hint of sweet spice. Fen found the fragrance itself to be a balm, a simple, wholesome goodness that made him feel safe and cared for, much like a child being tucked into bed. She would hand him a mug, and its warmth would seep into his palms, a grounding, pleasant sensation. As they sipped the warm, comforting liquid, their attention would turn to the Almanac of Dewfall, spread out before them on every leaf, petal, and blade of grass. They began to share their findings, their voices low and soft, careful not to disturb the morning's peace. "This one," Fen might murmur, pointing to a droplet on a fallen oak leaf. "It feels sturdy, like the feeling of deep roots holding fast in the earth." He would touch it gently, and a flicker of deep, ancient stability would pass through him. Rain, with a small knowing smile, would gesture to a string of tiny droplets on a spider's silk thread. "And these," she would whisper, "they feel like a soft vibration, a tiny, contented hum." She would not need to touch them. She had been here long enough to read their stories from the quality of their light. They were learning the language of the dell together, a language made not of words, but of pure, simple sensation. One droplet might hold the fleeting memory of a cool breeze's touch, while another held the sweet, heady scent of a celandine flower at the peak of its bloom. They discovered that the Almanac was not just a record of the past, but a reflection of the present moment's peace. The calmer their own minds were, the more clearly they could perceive the dew's gentle histories. It was a quiet form of meditation, an exercise in being so completely present that the boundary between oneself and the world began to soften. Fen felt his own busy thoughts, the ones that used to churn and chatter endlessly, growing quiet, replaced by a gentle, open curiosity. One morning, rain led him to the flat rock where the luminous moss grew. In the dawn light, it glowed with a soft lavender pulse. The rhythm as slow and steady as the sleeping heart. It sings back the quiet, she explained softly. It listens to the murmur of the spring and the rustle of the leaves, and this is its song. She gestured for him to place his hand on the moss. It felt wonderfully soft and cool, and beneath the surface he could feel it, a very low, deep hum, a vibration that seemed to travel up his arm and settle in his chest, loosening something tight he hadn't even known was there. The combination of the warm, bready tea, the cool, humming moss, and the silent, shimmering stories of the dew was profoundly soothing. It was a symphony of gentle sensations that washed over him, cleansing him of any lingering anxieties. He felt a sense of belonging so deep and simple that it needed no words. He and Rain were not just observers of the dell's magic. They were participants in its quiet daily rhythm of peace. They sat there for a long time, until the sun had climbed higher and the last of the dew had evaporated, releasing its tiny stories back into the air. The mugs were empty, but the feeling of warmth and contentment remained. They would part with a simple nod, each returning to their quiet, solitary tasks for the day, their hearts full of the morning's gentle harvest. There was no need to say goodbye, for in the dell there were no real separations, only the ebb and flow of quiet companionship. Chapter 4. The Hum of Belonging. A subtle but profound shift began to occur within Fen. The initial sense of wonder, that bright spark of discovering the dew's magic, slowly mellowed into something deeper and more abiding, a feeling of complete and utter belonging. The dell was no longer a place he was visiting. It was a part of him, and he a part of it. The separation between Fen and the world grew thin and porous, like morning mist. He found he no longer needed to actively seek out the dew's stories. He could feel the gentle hum of the dell's life all around him, all the time. One afternoon, when the sun was high and warm, casting dappled patterns of light and shadow on the ground, he found a perfect spot to simply be. It was a thick, springy carpet of moss nestled between the roots of one of the ancient, smooth-barked trees. The moss was a deep, reassuring green, and it felt wonderfully cool and soft to the touch. He lay down on his back, his head pillowed on his folded arms, and gazed up at the canopy above. The leaves in their soft sage-green hue filtered the sunlight, turning it into a gentle, shifting kaleidoscope that was endlessly mesmerizing to watch. He did not think. He did not wonder. He simply observed the dance of light, the slow, languid drift of a single leaf making its way to the forest floor, the lazy circling of a small white moth. He could feel the slow, deep pulse of the earth beneath him, a vibration far older and wiser than any thought. It was a feeling of being held securely in the planet's gentle embrace. He matched his breathing to it, a slow inhale as the light brightened, a long, soft exhale as a cloud passed over the sun. He felt the low, constant hum of the luminous moss, even from across the dell. It was no longer just a sound or a vibration he perceived with his ears or his skin, but a presence that resonated within the quiet spaces of his own mind. It was the background music of the dell, a song of deep and unending peace. The hum seemed to smooth out the small, wrinkled edges of his thoughts, leaving his mind feeling as smooth and calm as a pebble in a quiet stream. A gentle breeze, a mere sigh of air, drifted through the dell, carrying with it the clean, sweet scent of the selenine and the rich, wholesome fragrance of the damp earth. It caressed his skin, a touch as soft as rain's hand-woven blanket, and he felt a wave of pure physical relaxation wash over him. He noticed with a distant sort of curiosity that the muscles in his shoulders had been holding a slight tension, a knot of old worries. He consciously let it go and felt it dissolve, the feeling of release so pleasant it was almost a form of bliss. He must have drifted into a light, peaceful sleep, for he was awakened some time later by the softest of touches. A ladybug, a tiny, perfect dome of polished red, was making its slow, deliberate way across the back of his hand. He watched its journey without moving, marveling at its tiny, perfect feet and its unhurried progress. The creature was a perfect embodiment of the dell's spirit, gentle, purposeful, and completely at peace. When it reached the tip of his finger, it paused for a moment, then opened its wings and lifted into the air, a tiny speck of red against the soft green. He sat up, feeling more rested and clear-headed than he had in years. The afternoon light had softened, turning a warm golden color that made the entire dell seem to glow from within. Rain was sitting by her croft, mending a piece of soft blue cloth with threads that seemed to be spun from the luminous moss itself, for they held a faint, silvery light. She looked up and gave him the same quiet, contented smile as always. In that shared, silent glance, Ben felt a profound connection, an understanding that they were both woven into the same gentle, living tapestry. This was home. Chapter 5. The Gift of Evaporation. This morning felt different, not in any grand or dramatic way, for the dell knew nothing of drama, but in a quiet, significant sense, like the turning of a page in a well-loved book. Fen awoke before the first light, his senses keenly attuned to the world around him. He felt an immense, quiet gratitude bubbling up from his heart, a simple, profound thankfulness for the peace he had found. He slipped out of the croft and sat on the cool stone step, wrapping the soft blanket around his shoulders, ready to witness the full sacred cycle of the morning. The world was bathed in a deep, pre-dawn indigo, a silence so complete it felt like a physical presence. Then, slowly, Almost imperceptibly, the Almanac began to be written. He watched, utterly captivated, as the cooling air surrendered its moisture. A single, perfect sphere of dew would appear on the tip of a blade of grass, then another on a petal, then 1,000, then 1,000,000, until the entire dell was adorned in shimmering liquid jewels. Each droplet captured the first hint of eastern light, holding it and amplifying it, so the world seemed to be lit from within by countless tiny, soft lanterns. He did not need to touch the dew anymore. He sat in stillness, his mind as clear and receptive as a calm pool of water, and simply allowed the stories to come to him. He felt the soft, sleepy stirrings of a beetle nestled in the heart of a closed flower. He felt the deep, patient thirst of the tree roots drinking in the night's moisture. He felt the memory of starlight on a flat gray stone, a sensation of ancient, cold, and distant light. These were not his memories, but for a moment they were his to experience, a shared consciousness with the gentle, sleeping world. Rain emerged from her own croft, a silent, graceful silhouette in the growing light. She carried her usual pot of sun-grain tea, and the warm, bready scent mingled with the cool, clean fragrance of the morning. She sat beside him on the step, and they shared the comforting warmth of the mugs and the profound peace of the moment. No words needed. They were two quiet guardians of the dawn, bearing witness to a miracle that happened every single day, yet never lost its power to fill the heart with gentle wonder. As the sun's rim finally crested the hill that sheltered the dell, a soft golden light spilled into the basin. The magic began its final act. The first rays of sun touched the highest droplets on the tallest trees, and they began to dissolve. It was not a sad ending, but a beautiful, necessary transformation. He watched as each tiny sphere of memory, each liquid story, released its form and rose into the air as an invisible wisp of vapor. The cool, damp air began to warm, and the scent of the sun on wet leaves filled the dell, a fragrance of clean renewal. Fan understood then the deepest lesson of the Almanac. The peace was not in possessing the memories, in holding on to the perfect, shimmering droplets. The true gift was in the letting go. It was in the gentle cycle of creation and release, the understanding that beauty is often fleeting, and that its impermanence is what makes it so precious. The dew would be gone in an hour, but it would return again with the next dawn, bringing with it new stories, new moments of quiet wonder. He felt a profound sense of restoration, a cleansing of the spirit that left him feeling light, clear, and whole. The quiet of the dell was now his own quiet. Its peace was now his own peace. He looked at Rain, and she smiled, her eyes reflecting the same deep understanding. He had not come here to find something he had lost, but to remember something he had always had within him. With a soft, contented sigh that mingled with the last of the morning mist, he felt utterly and completely at ease, ready for the simple, quiet beauty of the day to unfold.